Last time, shit got really weird, but this time, we might actually get some plot progression. Level 14, Piranha. We currently find Haru and Alice walking through the Scarlet Forest in search of the castle. However, they end up bumping into a gigantic dream monster, forcing Haru and Alice to combine their magics to withstand its attacks. Though after a few moments, the monster gives up attacking, picks them up, and launches them out into the horizon. We then get a glimpse into Shihoru's past, where we learn that she was frequently bullied at school, which resulted in her lack of self-esteem. All of these insecurities are currently flowing out of her into Piranha as she faces down Kuzaku. Deep in her heart, she is a sad and broken girl who just wants to feel loved, so she asks Kuzaku to embrace her. However, he hesitates due to her lack of clothing, causing Shiho to attack him, though a man named Tanbei arrives to deflect the tears. The protective cocoon has finally come to a stop, and Haru finds himself inside of a building as Alice rushes outside, knocking over a doll. Alice quickly mentions that his friend is in charge of this place known as Ruins Number 3. Then a trickster named Nui appears, which Alice doesn't hesitate to attack. Nui effortlessly deflects the onslaught, and Haru suddenly experiences Alice's thoughts and emotions. Jumping back to Kuzaku, we are introduced to Tanbei and Gomi, who both simp for Io-sama, and this unique party actually turns out to be the final team in the Daybreakers. Io then attempts to charm Kuzaku as she gives him a nickname just before heading out to meet the king. Chapter 5 takes us back to Earth, where we are introduced to an incredibly intelligent but incredibly fearful young boy. This boy is so smart that he finds himself unable to connect with or understand other human beings. Then one day, while on a school trip, he ends up being the only survivor of a car crash. Haru is currently following Alice up Ruins Number 6, which is littered with statues of a single woman. He notices the statues seem to improve in quality as they climb, and they find Ahiru standing at the summit. Alice makes an offhand comment about shadows, just before provoking Ahiru with the name of a woman. Alice then starts to destroy the statues as he begins laughing sadistically alongside Haru. He then vows to take down the king and orders Ahiru to become his personal spy. Now, Io Squad has just reached the castle, where she informs Kuzaku that the king holds the power to turn people into shadow slaves. And after a few moments of walking, they enter into an elevator, which takes them directly to the throne room. Immediately upon exiting said elevator, Kuzaku is forced to his knees due to the king's overwhelming presence. He then notices a birdcage high above, jail cells on the wall, and a door attached to the back of the king's throne. The king then accepts Kuzaku as his servant just before Ahiru enters into the throne room, prompting the king to brag about a woman named Yonaki. Kuzaku quickly realizes that Yonaki is trapped in the birdcage above, just as the king orders everyone to leave his presence. We then find Haru and Alice at Ruins Number 7, which contains a tunnel leading directly into the castle. Ahiru then appears, followed by a shadow, which is then trailed by Kuzaku and Io Squad. Alice forcefully prevents Haru from running to Kuzaku and says that meeting Ahiru at the Iron Tower takes priority. Though upon reaching the tower, they are greeted by a multitude of dolls and of course their commander Nui. Haru quickly explains his plan to Alice, who distracts Nui, allowing him to enter into stealth and grapple her from behind. He is immediately overcome by Nui's thoughts and emotions, which all revolve around Alice. It turns out that Nui is suffering from body dysmorphia, which causes her to simultaneously adore and hate Alice. This unhealthy mindset is even the reason why Nui invited Alice to explore the cave that led them into Piranha. Haru then latches onto and pulls Nui's consciousness back to reality. Finally, we see Satora, Kichi, and Mary wandering through Piranha. As you can tell, Kichi has significantly changed, but he's not the only one. Mary is currently talking and acting like a completely new person, and she refuses to answer Satora's questions regarding it. All Satora knows is that this new version of Mary feels evil, but that's a problem for another time as they stumble upon a village. They enter inside to find the citizens completely avoiding them as they hear the 4 rules of the village village echo all around them. Satora then turns toward the now shut gate and sees two unknown men smash their way inside. She dismounts and pulls out Inba's core, using it to defend herself against these attackers. She is barely managing to fend them off, but luckily Kuzaku arrives to break up the fight, and Satora even begins to tear up at the sight of her comrade. She then butts heads with Io as Kuzaku explains that they came here to farm the dream monsters for power. Haru then opens his eyes to find himself holding Nui's motionless body. Alice clearly states that she's dead, but Haru begins CPR as he explains the details of his magic to Alice. Though after a while, they give up and carry her corpse up the tower, setting it down next to a human man who turned into a rust statue a long time ago. They sit there in silence for a long time before descending the tower to find a Hiru waiting for them. He tells them all about Io and Kuzaku and then states that he just wants the love of his life back in his arms. Alice then explains that he just wants to kill the king and escape this wretched world, prompting Haru to ask about an exit, which they explain is chained to the back of the king's throne. They then begin to search every corner of Pirano in an attempt to find the squad, and after ruling out every other possibility, they turn their attention to Ruins number 4, which is home to numerous dream monsters. At said village, we find Kuzaku bloodthirsty and hunger for more slaughter. Gomi and Tombi spring at him, but are both knocked back with ease. Satora is currently trying to reason with Kuzaku, but his mind has slipped too far due to the sudden increase of power. Kuzaku is preparing to attack, just as two arms gently but firmly wrap around him. Of course these arms belong to Haru, who successfully snaps Kuzaku out of his rage, dragging him back to reality. Our entire group escapes the village and climbs a nearby hill, where they discover a trickster waiting for them. Haru begins to approach, but Alice stops him, just as Shiho attacks with her tears. Alice's shovel protects them once again, as he tells Haru to release Shiho from her torment, just like he did for Nui. Haru backs away, stating that he's unable to kill her and that there has to be a different way. He orders Kuzaku to create a distraction, which he does by stripping down and flexing his very impressive muscles. Haru uses this opportunity to enter into stealth and latch onto the trickster. He immediately learns that Shiho feels broken inside, as if she's always missing a piece of herself. She believes this piece can only be filled by an intimate love that goes beyond a platonic friendship. And Haru knows that he's unable to fill that void for her, but he also can't bring himself to kill a comrade, so he simply lets go to jump away from the trickster. Shiho once again begins to cry, however Satora bravely steps forward, trapping her inside of Inba. Then with the whole squad reunited, they head toward the castle to make their great escape. Along the way, Io explains that one of her comrades was killed, one was turned into a shadow, and another was taken prisoner. Haru also notices that Mary seems to be acting a bit colder and more distant than her normal self. The group, led by Io, exits the elevator where they all kneel to the ground except for Inba. Satora orders him to get down, and he twitches a bit before falling flat on his face. Haru uses this unexpected opportunity to enter into stealth, which frees him from the king's magic, allowing him to see the true nature of the room. He quickly notices the birdcage high above, the cells on the walls, and the countless clones scattered all around. Alice and Ahiru then arrive, causing the true king to reveal himself by looking toward the elevator. The king quickly sees through their act, and Alice vomits up his shovel, preparing for battle. The king then notices Haru and sinks into the floor just before Haru could use his magic. Stealth is now broken, and everyone cowers in fear, except for Inba, who bravely steps forward. He then explodes as Shiho begins attacking and pushing back the king. A second king then appears, which targets Haru. However, Tonbi throws Gomi to intercept the attack. Haru takes this opportunity to stealth again as he watches the real king thrust his arm into Tonbi, reducing him to a mere shadow. Haru then uses this opening to quickly grab a hold of the boy. We then get Rion's sad and lonely backstory about how he ended up becoming king of Pirano. Haru then gently tells the boy that he's no longer alone and that he doesn't need to struggle so hard to survive anymore. Rion then releases his magic hold on everyone, allowing them to rescue the prisoners and open the door. Haru pulls the trickster to her feet as Alice physically kicks Rion through the exit. Shiho takes a few steps but suddenly stops moving, so Haru scoops her up in his arms and steps through, though not before hearing Ahiru say that he's never leaving Yoneki's side again. Haru then opens his eyes, but finds himself lying on the ground, completely paralyzed. He then hears a man tell a woman to begin administering the drugs to all but two of the subjects. Haru then recognizes this woman as Hiyomu, the person who greeted them when they first arrived in Grimgar, and the owner of the voice that spoke to them at the Leslie camp. She then force feeds Haru some medicine, causing him to black out once again. So, are you curious about what Ranta and Yume have been up to? Well, come back in 2 weeks for that video. Then of course, a big thank you to all my patrons.